Welcome to our podcast, Doing It Right. This podcast reveals authentic stories from successful leaders doing it right. It's about their journey to become a leader, their choices, motivations, and lessons. In essence, how they built successful personal brands. Your host is Valerie Sokolosky, author of 8 leadership books and nationally known as an authority on executive presence and personal branding. Let's get started. Here's Valerie.
Well, welcome again. I am more than excited for today's show because it's our first town hall. So buckle up, get your coffee. Come on, y'all, grab your coffee. All right? We are all saying cheers to you. We're going to cheers to you. Go ahead.
Cheers to you.
Cheers. We want you to stay with us the entire show because this prestigious group of leaders I have with me today are going to be talking about one of the most relevant and compelling topics that everyone is discussing, and that is what's happening with coming back to the workplace. So let me have a sip, then I'm going to start. You ready? I needed that. All right. Well, you know, many of us are wondering what's next in this workplace where people have operated from home since early 2020. And leaders everywhere, including these 4, are examining if and how they should have their employees return to the workplace. And we're all still learning, what's that going to look like? What should it look like? Well, stay tuned. You know, as I have coached and worked with companies over the last 25 years in my leadership development firm, I've seen firsthand how leaders have grown and really had an impact and influence in their roles. But I tell you what, now with COVID, wow, what I am seeing, and you are too, because I'm seeing that the leaders today are rising to the occasion. It's really as simple as that. They're making the good decisions about their businesses, and they're nurturing as best they can the employees in unprecedented ways. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. And I have a new name for this. It's called the next normal. Forget the new normal, right? We talked about that when I talk with each of you, which I always do. I always meet my guests ahead of time. I think that's important. It's the next normal.
Or the new reality.
Or the new reality. Right. That's a good one, Paul. Absolutely. And so before I make the formal introductions, I also was thinking just last night about the word shepherd, because I think this is what you all and other leaders are doing. You're really being shepherds. And what do I mean by that? Well, you're each doing your best to be responsible for the well-being of your people, the needs of the customers, and the financial health of the organization, which of course you must do. And while at the same time maintaining your own well-being. So, without any further ado, I'm going to put on my glasses because I don't want to miss anything in their bios. So here we go. To my right, Carrie.
Hi.
I'm so glad. Carrie, it's because of you that several people have been nominated to be on this show and are here today.
Happy to be here.
I really thank you for that. So here's about the wonderfulness of Carrie. She serves as Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of Vistra, overseeing the functions of human resources, corporate affairs, corporate security, and facilities management. Prior to her current role, she was the Executive Vice President of Human Resources at Vistra's predecessor, many of you know, Energy Future Holdings Corporation, leading the human resources functions across EFH, corporate, and its subsidiaries, Luminant and TXU Energy. She was previously Vice President of HR at TXU Energy, where she was originally recruited in 2006 as a Human Resources Director to support the power generation business in its construction and expansion efforts. Prior to joining TXU Energy, Carrie was Director of HR in Delinea Corporation, a software services company targeting the energy industry. And before that, she was Director of HR at, and you're going to have to pronounce this, Natraki?
Netrake.
Netrake. Boy, did I mess that up. I'm
One of
so
the
glad.
original voice over IP chip companies.
Okay.
Back in the telecom boom.
Just yesterday.
Yes.
Just yesterday. And she began her career in the executive search business as a consultant for Ray and Bernstein, supporting the technology practice. Now, in addition to all that, Carrie sits on the board of the Women's Business Council Southwest. She holds a bachelor's degree in marketing and a master of business administration from Texas Christian University. Did I get it all right?
You got it.
Welcome,
Thank
Carrie.
you.
Thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. And now Miss Jenny to my left, Jenny Kisley. Jenny is the global president and chief operating officer for Ryan Dallas office and leads Ryan's global operations in the United States, Canada, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And you used to travel there, right, Jenny?
Yes.
Not so much now?
Not so much now.
When
No.
was the last time?
Last business trip was over a year ago.
Oh,
The
boy.
trips that I've made have been vacation. So,
Well, we're all ready for
we are Zoom experts.
You are.
I've taken 3 hours of Zoom training, so it's all Zoom.
It's all Zoom, and now here you are on this panel.
Exactly.
What else is she about? Well, she's a member of the Board of Managers and a principal at Ryan's Dallas office. Now, Ryan specializes in providing transaction tax services, including multi-state audit defense representation, research, reverse audits, and transaction tax education on a national basis. In addition to transaction tax services, Jenny is an industry-recognized expert in the Texas Enterprise Zone Program, TEZP, which is a business incentive for capital investment and new or retained jobs, and other state and local incentives in Texas. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you.
Did I get it
So
all
good to be here.
right?
You did, yes.
All right, good. Here we go. And to my right, Dr. Darren D'Agostino, and he actually had been previously on the show just a couple of weeks ago. So if you haven't seen his show, be sure and tune in. Dr. D'Agostino is the new provost and chief academic officer at Texas Tech University of Health Science Center. The scope of his job responsibilities spans all academic programs at TTUHSC. That's a mouthful, Darren.
It is.
And how these programs interface with the communities with which the students, faculty, and staff interact. Dr. D'Agostino began his career at Hartford Hospital, where he became Director of Medical Education. Here, he was instrumental in developing the graduate medical education expansion in the state of Connecticut for the American Osteopathic Association. His family relocated, we're glad, to Fort Worth, where he served as chair of the Department of Medicine at the University of North Texas Health Science Center. For 10 years, he led and participated in clinical programs, teaching, and research related to expanding the services in healthcare for the DFW communities. Darren believes that a paradigm shift in current medical education is occurring. He's convinced that pre-doctoral education must embrace innovation, that's true, and exploration of new clinical applications to enhance the patient, experience, as well as create safe and healthy communities. So thank you, Darren, and welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's so good to have you back. And Paul, to my left, as Senior Vice President of HR for Hunt Consolidated, Inc., Paul Hoffman is responsible for providing a full range of human resources support to the diversified set of Hunt companies. He joined the organization in 2003 as Director of HR for Hunt Oil Company. Prior to joining Hunt, Hoffman was Divisional Vice President of Human Resources for Dynegy, Inc., where he managed the human resources function for the Marketing and Trading Division. Paul began his career with Illinois Power Company, where he served for 18 years in various operations and human resources roles. He served as Vice President in Human Resources prior to Illinois Power's merger with Dynegy. Paul's a member of the Society of Human Resources Management, is a business graduate from Eastern Illinois University, and holds an MBA from Arizona State University, where my daughter graduated from.
Go Sun Devils.
Welcome, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, let's just get started. I would like to start my questions, Carrie, with you and Dr. D'Agostino. As I already said, I'm kind of moving from the term of new normal to next normal, or what Paul said. And then you just think about week to week things are changing, and so I've got a new term, and that's the week that was.
For sure.
So I'd like for the two of you to talk about this for a moment. With this recent surge in COVID cases due to the Delta variant, how are you, we'll start with you, Carrie, how are you flexing your return to work policies?
Well, every day, it seems like. First and foremost, we want to keep our employees healthy and do our best to keep anyone from getting sick because they came to work. We operate power plants in 20 states. Those employees, close to 3,000 of them, have been working every day the whole time. So, they don't have a choice. They have to be there.
And with masks or without?
With masks right now, indoors. So we went through where they were with masks until we have adopted, we follow the CDC, because there's so many opinions out there. So we were talking earlier, Doctor, that we try to keep our employees, this is what we're going to do, CDC and OSHA. That's what we do. And usually OSHA follows the CDC. And so when they said that you could take your masks off indoors if you were vaccinated, we allowed our employees to do the same. And we have been tracking vaccinations of our employees from the very beginning. So we were able to know who was vaccinated and who wasn't. And if you were vaccinated, you could take your masks off. Now, those people have now put their masks back on because the CDC says you have to put them back on indoors. So we will follow, and we will continue to follow them, their advice and OSHA's for that. And so our return to work for the rest of our employees, we also have some, I should say, at our headquarters that are essential workers that are in our operations center, on our trade floor, et cetera, that have also been coming in. And they follow the same rules that our field employees do. But for everyone else, we have been, had planned to come back in September.
In September.
And we put together a hybrid work policy like everybody else.
Sure.
3 days a week in, 2 days a week out, et cetera, et cetera. And then when we started getting a little bit of divisiveness around vaccinated and unvaccinated employees.
From the employees.
Right. And people concerned about coming back and what would happen if I have to wear a mask and someone else doesn't. Mm-hmm. And we decided at that time, even before the surge happened, that, we've worked really hard to keep our company unified for the last year and a half. And we just didn't want to do that to ourselves. So we pushed out our required return to work to January, early on, before the surge really hit. But we were going to allow vaccinated employees to come in starting in September voluntarily. So as many days a week as you want. If you are vaccinated, you can start coming into the office. Because we had a bunch of people who really wanted to come in and were disappointed when we pushed it out to January. So But now we've pushed that off because we don't want to bring, and also because we know even if you're vaccinated, you can still transmit it. So we've now just said, hold the phone, we'll get back to you. So that even the voluntary return of vaccinated people is now delayed until we this process settles down. So all that being said, it's just an evolving process, and you just have to, but always keeping in mind, how do we keep people safe?
Yes, that's number one.
Absolutely.
Well, Carrie, what would you add? What's going on at the university?
What she said.
That's easy.
It's very interesting. We also have one added factor that's playing into this, and that is students are returning to school. So in a very real sense, there's been an influx of thousands of kids coming onto our campuses, and we need to constantly morph, evaluate, look at the things that are going to be necessary to keep people safe. We have certain restrictions on the things that we can do and we can't do, and with that playing field, we have to come up with the answers in order for people to feel safe and be safe on campus. The thing that's very interesting that I'm learning now is the issue is not really the virus anymore, because we know so much about it. We have a Delta variant that's highly infectious. We have 50 to 60% of the people, I'm not sure we truly have the number of how many people are vaccinated, and we have even less information on the number of people that have mounted immunity to it and how long that will last. And so with all of these factors, the things that we have at our disposal are mitigation strategies, and that's what we have to focus on. And this is an important piece, because it'll get into, I think, some of the conversation we'll have today. The vaccines are preventing disease. They're preventing us from getting sick from the disease, going into the hospital, dying from it. But mitigation strategies prevent us from getting infected.
Now, what do you mean mitigation?
So things like masks, physical distancing, cleaning surfaces, making sure if you cough into your elbow. If you're sick, you stay home. So the strategies we have to prevent people from giving the virus to others are critical right now. And those are directly related to behaviors. And that's what we're focusing on, is what are our behaviors? What are we doing to protect others from getting this virus? And so far it's working. Now, do we have people who are getting infected even though they've been vaccinated? Yes. Are they going into the hospital? Generally, no. We do see that happen, but it's a very, very mild course in most cases. In the area that we are at, in all of our campuses, remember we have 6 campuses, we have our colleges on. And in those different regions, we have different prevalence rates and different infection rates and different vaccine rates for all of the people. And so it's adding multiple variables to this. So we have to focus on what can we control personally to help protect others, because the variables change the playing field on an hourly basis. Yeah.
My goodness. Well, we could talk for an hour on just that one question, but let's keep going. So, Jenny and Paul, I have a question for you, and that is, we're seeing inflation and earnings suffering, higher prices, a shortage in the talent pool. So how are you able to forecast effectively when you're making these decisions, and what kind of conversations are going on, behind the scenes with the people who are making these decisions? Jenny?
Want to go first, Jenny?
Sure. Well, I think flex is the word, right? Flexibility is it. And we're keeping close tabs on it. So we look at all of our forecasting models and make sure that it's we're in line with what we had budgeted, our plan, versus where we're at today. Thankfully, our turnover is at 12%. So we've had relatively low turnover. And as we look back at that.
What's average, Jane?
It can be anywhere. It can be anywhere. Professional services firms can be up to 15%. So it really just depends. And it also depends upon the region, too. So, we're looking at our turnover metrics. It's been a war on talent, though. It's hard to find talented people. We're losing talented people. So we are constantly evaluating our compensation, total compensation, making sure that we're in line with market, continuing those market studies. And I think it's really looking also at the pulse of our people. So our Great Places to Work survey results recently, we had 96% engagement survey on that, which is incredibly high engagement.
My goodness.
It's amazing.
Really
And so we pulse our people a lot. There are lots of feedback loops for us to see how they're feeling, what's going on, how can we be better as an organization. And we really believe in that. So every month we've got a town hall meeting. We call it Team Talk. And the CEO hosts it, 30 minutes of prepared comments, 30 minutes of Q&A, and he takes all questions. Every question. He does his best to get through all of them. Nothing's off limits. And we also have another system called Ryan Pride. It's a feedback loop where you can also recognize your coworkers for a good job well done. You can put how you're feeling that day. We lean in a lot to well-being. We have a system called Ryan Thrive. Which is a well-being system. So, and it's all different aspects of well-being. So from financial to, aging parents to any kind of assistance that you may need. Weight loss programs. I'm going to sign up for that one soon. I've decided tomorrow's the day. It's not today, but it's going to be tomorrow.
Okay.
And so it's really just making sure that we're keeping a pulse on our people. So we've had record results. So from an earnings perspective and record revenue. So from a services perspective, our clients still need tax help. And so thankfully we've been there. We've been an essential business from day one. So we never closed our offices. And but we also have let our offices, the people who need to be in the office, there's something we call role reality, that if you are a mailroom person, if you're someone that's the receptionist role, you have to be in the office. So we want to make sure those folks are safe in the environment that they need to be in. For those who can work at home, that they do work from home. So
that engagement percentage is amazing. Is there,
amazing.
Isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Is there one, we'd all like to know this. Is there one thing that you've been there forever and you're running a big group? What's the major reason?
I think it's the transparency. I feel like it's the transparency that we have as an organization, encouraging that communication, walk the walk, talk the talk. It's very important that we live by those values. So it's an open environment, and I have a coffee chat with the new hires. I host that, started with COVID. You and I talked about this beforehand. Some of the fun things that we did to try to keep everybody engaged. I remember last year it was April. I remember thinking, gosh, I really miss seeing my clients. I really want to get out there and see my clients, and because I'm used to traveling every week. It's just what you do in the consulting world. And that just went away, and it was April, and I thought, I want to do a Cinco de Mayo, like margarita making class. Let's do that. So I called the events team. I said, let's get a margarita making kit together. Let's send that to a group of clients that want to get together and learn how to make, Texas margaritas. I quickly learned the liquor laws don't allow easy transmission of tequila across state lines. It got too complicated very quickly. I said, let's go to wine. So we quickly pivoted and did wine events with clients. And so we did Wine Wednesdays. And then it got us thinking, well, wait a minute, if we're going to do Wine Wednesdays for clients, what can we do for our own people, right? I've hosted events. We did a charcuterie and cheese board making class here locally in Dallas, where I had a woman who does these, and she would ship out kits to the team members that I was going to get with together, and she'd show us how to make a charcuterie and cheese board. So just you got to think about creative ways to keep that engagement out there. Of your people, and it's not just free pizza on Fridays anymore in the office. That's gone away.
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. You got to do, and it's not the margarita making, although that sounds like fun. But no.
Right. And we are going to talk about innovation a little bit later. Paul, weigh in on this.
I want to work for Ron.
Great, it's working.
We're going to keep that in the show.
I think for me, it's we're making this up as we go along. No company has a playbook for how to do what we're doing, how to forecast, how to stay engaged with your employees when you're largely working from home. So a lot of us network with each other. What are other organizations? I learned a few things from Jenny just now. What are other organizations doing to stay engaged with their employees and also return to work? We, like Jenny, we pulse survey our employees frequently, particularly during this period of time. Just to find out what they want. We did one, several months ago about working from home. We use the results from that to kind of shape our what our new reality will hopefully look like when we get there. We put a pause on ours as well. So it's just listening to the employees, feedback loops, feedback channels. We use a lot of from a compensation standpoint. We want to remain competitive. We've used market-based surveys for years, and we'll continue to use that intelligence to make sure we're paying our employees, competitively, or even more than competitively. So it's really about listening to your employees, talking to your employees. Our owners have done a lot of we call it Ask Me Anything, where they are on camera, much in a setting much like this, and employees are able to ask them anything they want. So the transparency and the communication has really been very, very important, throughout this whole time. I also think there's some advantages that we have learned as things that we're doing now that we weren't doing before the pandemic. I feel as a global company, we've been way more inclusive with our folks around the world, because we don't have to go there. We can include them in meetings just by pushing Zoom. Yeah. So we did last year. We did a global Christmas party with everybody. Wow. Things that just I feel we've started some new things, that some good things have come out of this that I feel will continue. So.
See, I love to hear that. We're all so used to hearing the down, and there have been some good things, which we'll keep talking about that. I think that's important.
I really think this pandemic has accelerated trends that were already out there. Working from home, flexibility. It was there. We're just getting there 5 to 10 years faster than we would have otherwise.
Who would have known?
Yeah, right.
That's excellent. That's excellent information. Well, speaking and tagging on the innovativeness, Carrie, I wanted to ask you this question. It seems like with this talent shortage that they have the power now, right? And so we know it's a developing story, and it's really thrown a wrench in everything. So tell us about, you and I talked about some things that you've been doing innovatively, as they have said.
We started early on doing, we did weekly town halls for a long time, and then turned into monthly, and our CEO does the same thing, and people submit their questions. He answers every single one of them. And we use that, and it's amazing to me, the transparency and the relationship that he has personally built with our employee base that he would not have otherwise built.
There you go.
Had he not been doing this once a month. And they feel like they can email him about anything, anytime, and they do, which is great, and so that, I think that connection with employees is really important. We do tons of pulse surveys too about, we went through a deal in the middle of last year where when we knew we were going to come back in a hybrid way whenever we came back, where we said, okay, we're going to let everybody set up an office at home and at work. So we sent a survey out and said, who needs, monitors, who needs this, who needs that, and shipped all this stuff to all these people so that and now we're sending, doing another survey saying, okay, when you originally left, what did you take from the office that we now need to replace at the office so you can come back to the office? So we recently did that survey. So we're ordering all this stuff so that eventually people will be able to come back and have what they need at the office. So
this is why I can't get monitors.
That's exactly
They're all going to your company.
So things like that, so people feel comfortable and like they have a good work environment at home. And we had people actually send us pictures of their work from home office, and it was so funny. And then we did them on the live stream when people had like, I'm in the attic and here's the boxes with my computer, or I'm outside, or it was really fun. And their kids are all in the background, and it was great. So trying to get employees it's more of a two-way thing. We have a Halloween event every year that's really important to our company culture, where employees, we have a huge competition in our headquarters building, and we do things all around the country. And then at 3:00 on that day, everybody's kids come and trick or treat, and they're in their costumes. And so last year we were like, how in the world, we can't not have Halloween. So in all of our offices, we had drive-through Halloween, and we had employees volunteer, and they were dressed up, and then the kids were in their cars, in their costumes, and they trick-or-treated through to the parking garage, which is a brand new parking garage that we've never used yet, that we built.
You have now?
It was finished, right as in April of 2020. So we're like, it's really pretty when you drive by, but we used it for our Halloween. So things like that to try to stay in touch with our employees, I think is a way to innovate. And then I also think what's really important is finding ways that we're working on now, you've kind of got all this other stuff down, right? But how do you help employees still develop their careers and move through the organization and get the training that they need? Because the realization that we have no idea how long this is going to last, and we have a ton of employees that we want to keep that can get jobs at other places pretty easily. Development and the equity and opportunity for people across the company is something that we are really working hard on. So innovative ways to do training, because you can't do in-person training anymore. Innovative ways to make sure your job postings are marketed so that people get the opportunities that they need. How are our people interviewing? Those are the types of things that we're really focusing on now, so that regardless of whether we're in a work from home, hybrid, because when hybrid, that's still like that. Not everyone will be in the same place at the same time. How do we ensure the development of our people and the equal access to opportunities across the board? And so those are the new areas of innovation that I think all of corporate America are struggling with, and that we're going to probably see, just like Paul said, with all these other things, some real innovation acceleration, I think, because we're going to have to do that to keep our people.
Can I add to that? So in health professions, we have the exact same thing happening. The challenge is our accrediting bodies and our board exams and certifying bodies and licenses to be able to practice medicine or to become a nurse or to move into the laboratory sciences are relatively fixed. So we still have to be able to get people these skills. And one of the deep dives we had to do in the health-related education professions was actually decide what must be face-to-face with a clinician, what must be hands-on, where we had to take a risk, bring on risk by putting people in the same room, using mitigation strategies to try to protect them. Otherwise, the rest of it is primarily didactic or distance education. So it was very easy to convert that to distance education, but it's not so easy to meet accreditation requirements and certification requirements when people are not face-to-face. We add on top of that the challenges with getting health profession students into hospitals, which has to be face-to-face. And so these hybrid models can work to our advantage, but we still have to meet pretty rigid criteria to be able to get certification and move future health professionals into the field and have them be safe and effective for the patients. So unique challenges.
They're all unique challenges.
Yeah.
What kind of employee are you now looking for that maybe is a little different than in the past? Jenny?
Gosh, I mean, immediately I go to resilience, but that's what this has all been about. Then you go to, okay, well, the traditional, did they do an internship? Did they not? Then you have to think about that a lot of them didn't get the opportunity to do an internship.
Right.
I think about last summer, at least in the professional services area, we were the only ones that kept our internship program. We had 70 interns last summer. And I went and I actually had a dinner with 4 interns that were leaving last summer. And I said to them, out of all of your friends, like, how many of them had internships or not? And they said, all of my friends, all of their internships were canceled. Ours was, thankfully Ryan kept it, right? But they all had different experiences. Some came to the office, some were all remote. It was very interesting. So my mind immediately goes to resilience, but I sit here and say, gosh, I mean, how do you define that? It's a different way to define resilience today as opposed to what it was 2 years ago. So it's good. totally, the labor market has shifted. And you're looking for folks who, I mean, at Ryan, you got to be entrepreneurial. You got to be the best. I mean, we're the neurosurgeons of tax. We're specialty tax providers. So you've got to want to be specialist. You got to understand it. So I love talking with the new hires right out of college, talking with the interns. We do coffee chats with those. That's my favorite thing to do. I'll let the CEO handle the tough questions in the town hall, and I'll go take the more informal coffee chats to get to know you kind of things. Those are more fun for me. But the labor market's it's a different animal today, and I would say resilience is probably the answer, but I think it's a different look than what it used to be.
That's a good one. Mm-hmm. Paul, I'm going to throw this at you. Kind of has to do with what she's talking about. What are you looking for in the new hires? I'm going to take it to the leaders, and actually Carrie gave me this question I'd like you to answer. You as leaders are struggling with your own well-being. Mm-hmm. So to the audience, I would throw this out and ask Paul to answer it, which is everyone is getting fatigue, mental fatigue, right, Carrie? And so we talked about the fact that employees can help the leaders.
Yes.
Because the leaders have been taking the brunt. And you know what? They're tired too. So let's get out, my perspective, let's get out of our shoes and get into the boss's shoes. From your perspective, what is something that your direct reports can do to support you?
Wow, that's a wonderful question.
Isn't that a great? Thank you, Carrie. That's a wonderful question.
First, I think leaders, not just me, but leaders need to show that they're vulnerable. They're open, open to that. I've seen leaders become much more in touch with themselves, much more in touch with the people that they work with. Carrie was talking about the different offices. You never really saw your employees with their children before. Now you see the whole person.
Yeah.
And we need to show them, the whole person, whole person as well. What they can do for me is continue to be flexible and adaptable. And I don't know all the answers, and I'd like their opinions too. Share their opinions with me.
Can I tack on to that one?
You can.
It would also be encourage communication.
Yeah.
Because if you're not encouraging and asking for that two-way dialogue, they're keeping it bottled in. You have to have that two-way dialogue now more than ever to find out what's going on, how you can be a better leader of people, what people may be thinking.
Yeah.
And to also tack on to, we're now seeing their personal lives because of Zoom, right? You're on Zoom and you see their child walk into the back and they're like, oh my gosh, they want to get their children out of the screen. And I say, and I want to make them comfortable with that. It's like, it's okay. Is that your daughter? Hi, how are you? Say hi. And I love that aspect. That's the positive aspect. And it hit me last week that our team members, they've let us into their lives, right? Totally. I mean, and that is a gift. That is a gift that we, I hadn't thought of it from that lens of, what, I was thinking of it like we're letting everybody work from home, how nice that is there, right? We're so blessed to have that opportunity. But I thought about that flip side last week and it was like, you know what? It's actually the opposite of that. So,
and for some of them working from home, it isn't. It's been a real challenge.
It has.
Absolutely.
Juggling children in school and and all of those things. It's been a challenge.
I think a simple question.
They relied on.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, right.
And I would add, even beyond the C-suite of people leaders, we have people leaders all over our organization, right? Some are newer at it than others that are having to manage leading teams of people in this environment, and so. I spend a lot of time thinking, how do I make sure my call center supervisors are okay that are running a call center remotely? No, the people are not at the call center, they're at home. Which, by the way, you would never have thought you could do, but actually you can, right?
You go.
And,
innovation.
And then even in the power plants where people are at work, but you're still leading groups of people who are having a lot of stress because they are having to come to work every day, trying to keep them safe, you have differences of opinion about vaccinations, not vaccinations, masks, not masks, all happening live, and you're trying to run a critical infrastructure, right? And I know Hunt has the same issue. So supporting people leaders to help them know, that you don't have to have all the answers either.
No.
You know, do your very best, call for help. We're here to support you, you know, but just getting that message out, I think is important, because that even the frontline leaders, even sometimes more, I think are trying to figure things out. So supporting them is important.
I think that's a good way to bring closure to the show, is that you need support, employees need support, and everyone's trying to figure it out. I always ask my guests, and we're going to put it at the bottom of the screen as we close this out. Each of them were asked what they have had lessons learned through all of this. So you can see that at the end of the show on the screen. And we've all had lessons learned. One final question very quickly, just going around. Darren, I'll start with you, Dr. D'Agostino, which is, what is a challenge you would throw out to your peers? Very quickly.
I think the biggest challenge is to not be afraid of the innovations we need to change culture.
Thank you.
That's a good one. You get to go first. My challenge would be to find some time every day to relax. You know, it's very hard to take a 5-minute break during the day sometimes, but I think I find that if I do it, I'm better. But I think everybody needs to do that a little bit, to just breathe and take a break, and do not do 12 continuous hours of Zoom.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Paul?
My challenge is a little bit similar, but my challenge is remember to focus on what's most important to you, you know, whether that's your family, your health. But we sometimes lose sight of what our priorities are, and I would challenge all of us to remember what's most important and focus on that every day.
Absolutely.
Good. Jenny?
Mine's a continuation of what Carrie said as well, which really is also asking your team members, the people you work with, how they're doing, and listen.
That's a great one.
It's something that we did in the beginning, put a lot of focus on in the beginning, and you just get busy running that, you know, hamster wheel every day. So it's
a great one.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I hope you all have enjoyed this as much as I have. It's
been great.
Thank you.
It's just been real.
We're good.
Went fast.
Yeah, you have. And I would love for you to come back, maybe, and I don't know when. We're all still learning, and we don't have answers to anything. When are you going to come back? I don't know. But thank you so much from my heart for
Thank
the
you,
first
Valerie.
town hall to be this wonderful with great information. And audience, I have to leave by saying, you know what? If you've enjoyed this episode, would you do me a favor? Would you please hit that red button? That's the subscribe button, and that's what keeps me on the air. So do that for me, please. Until
the red
next
button.
time, push the red button. Let's cheer them all. Bye for now.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye for
Cheers.
now.
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.